Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Washington, it's Friday, casual Friday. We're going to go without a tie today, but that's right. And it is time for our first episode of Fridays with Ferguson. That's right. I'm going to be joined in just a few moments here by independent journalist Michael Easton, who is the public disclosure request king. And we're going to go through each week and we're going to dissect certain parts of Attorney General Ferguson's record so that you guys can decide whether or not this guy is the appropriate person to be the next governor of the state of Washington. And better yet, we're going to bring all the receipts. So if anything you hear or see on this channel you have a hard time swallowing or believing, well, all of the receipts are down below there in the description box. So today, let's have our first episode of Fridays with Ferguson. Okay, Washington, it is Friday, which means we're going to spend some time kind of dissecting the record of your Attorney General. Now, listen, we're going to try to keep it right down the middle here. We're not going to tell you how to think, but we are going to give you all the stuff to think about so that you can make some informed decisions. Now, quick little word. We got 3 sponsors for our Fridays with Fergusons, and they include Taylor Freeland, Security Gun Club, and of course the Cougar Collective. You can check out the WGL Partners page right there to get more information about all 3 of these fantastic organizations. I told you we're going to bring the man who brings the receipts. That's Michael Easton. So without further ado, let's get Michael here. All right, everyone. Exactly. Look, I promised you I would have Michael Easton here. Michael, how are you? And thanks for joining us.
Good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Listen, for anyone who's been living under a rock, doesn't know what Michael Easton's doing and how to follow him, why don't you tell everyone how they can get plugged in with Michael Easton?
You can find me on Twitter at Michael Easton W-A.
Okay. Hey, listen, just so people know, on a side note, you and I are personal friends. We talk several times a week. We geek out on things, and we will kind of spitball ideas. And so you and I have kind of been spitballing this whole idea and taking a look at a lot of things as it relates to Attorney General Ferguson. And so we decided we were going to do this series, and we're just going to kind of piecemeal this one little myth at a time. And today's myth is this: that Bob Ferguson runs a very efficient and ethical Attorney General's office. And if I told you that, what would you say is the truthfulness of that myth?
I would say that is a completely false myth.
That is a completely false myth. Why? Why, sir, would you say that? What have your public disclosure records discovered?
In this particular instance, I have found numerous and repetitive instances of where Bob Ferguson and his office have had massive lapses in judgment, as well as lapses in legal requirements that they've had when it comes to discovery.
Okay. Just to give the viewer an idea, we went back and took a look at the 12 years that he's been the Attorney General. And I understand that you made a public disclosure request for how many times has he been assessed attorney's fees, fines, assessments, or anything like that? And what was the total dollar amount that you came up with for his 12 years as Attorney General?
I came up with 54 instances, as well as a grand total of $16,204,527.58.
$16.2 million in a 12-year period.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, now, you remember the first time you told me that number, I damn near drove my car off the roadway. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And I said to you, I said, hey, listen, do me a favor. Let's go take a look at like the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, an office that I have a great deal of respect for. I had the pleasure of working there many years ago. And I know that's a very, very high volume, high pressure law office that they're running there. During that same 12-year period of time, just to give the viewer an idea, how much was the King County Prosecutor's Office assessed in these similar types of fines, fees, and assessments?
In those same 12 years, they were fined $84,385.09.
Okay, so roughly $84,000 in change compared to the Attorney General's office, $16.2 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, and the prosecutor's office deals with more cases.
Well, yeah, like I said, the King County Prosecutor's Office is a high volume office, and they also deal with a lot of juvenile cases, and there's speedy trial. There's a lot of ways that a prosecutor in that system could actually stub their toe accidentally. So I think that that's actually a pretty admirable number compared to what we're seeing out of the Attorney General's office. So did you find a common thread in the cases as to why, what he was doing in order for his office to get racked up with these fines?
Yeah, the commonality, and it was across multiple cases, was failure to turn over documents to the other side in discovery.
Okay. And just so the viewer understands, discovery is kind of a fancy term for my evidence and your evidence. And even though you may watch courtroom dramas where it's, aha, we got a surprise witness, or aha, we got a surprise exhibit. Actually, in the real world, that's not how it works. Because if I had a case against the Attorney General's office, I would have to disclose all the evidence that I intend on using, and they would have to disclose all the evidence that they intend on using. They be in the prosecution, and with the burden of proof, there is actually additional ethical requirements on a prosecutor. And so courts will get really angry really fast with prosecutors that are hiding the ball. Michael, did you find any cases that really jumped off the page? Like, wow, I can't believe either what happened here or the dollar amount that we're talking about.
Yeah, I found 3 cases that really jumped out at me. The first one was I forget, I'm gonna butcher this poor man's name, but it's the Pszonka case.
Yeah, that
was all
that's
the
out
way
of
back in
Snohomish County, right?
2014.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Yeah, Snohomish County case 2014. Mr. Ferguson was only a couple of years into his tenure as Attorney General there, but you did find a rather steep price tag on that one for the Attorney General's office. How much were they ultimately ended up being assessed on that one?
Correct. Their assessment was $1,182,996.06.
Okay, so almost 1.2 million.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
What was the reason for those sanctions?
They were withholding documents in discovery.
Okay. Let's fast forward then to a couple cases in a little bit more recent time, because one would think that that would have been a really good learning lesson for the Attorney General, but instead of things getting better, they actually seemed to get worse, didn't they?
Yes, sir, they did.
Yeah, let's talk about the Tobin case, because I know you drew my attention to the Tobin case. Why don't you tell the viewers about what happened in Tobin?
The Tobin case, they had the same thing, failure to produce almost 11,000 pages of documents, and they said that everyone agreed to was responsible to Miss Tobin's discovery requests. He was ultimately fined $322,000, as well as the settlement for the case was $3.1 million.
All right, so they failed to turn over 11,000 pages of discovery. They were personally fined $322,000 for that, and the total settlement that the state had to pay on that case was $3.1 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Then the last case we're going to talk about, and this is the one, and this is one of the most frustrating things, is that unfortunately mainstream media has not really reported a lot of these epic failures, but there was one that did garner a little bit of attention, and that is the Value Village case. Now, for the viewers who don't know what that was all about, the Attorney General's office claimed that Value Village was holding themselves out as a nonprofit organization when in fact they were a for-profit organization. The truth of the matter is Value Village never did such a thing. They never held themselves at it. It was almost like the Attorney General's office, for whatever reason, decided to go on a war against Value Village. Michael, tell the viewer first, how much was the total price tag for the state of Washington by the time this Value Village litigation was done?
Including fines and the settlement, you were at $4,341,633.
$4.3 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we had said earlier that there was some media coverage about this, including a really good article out of the Olympian, in which apparently some officials from the court, I don't know if it was the judge or somebody else, had expressed a lot of concern about the almost abuse of power that was being demonstrated here. Can you share that with the viewers?
Yes, sir. In fact, the people involved had said the Attorney General's office admitted early on that there was, quote, never any evidence of consumer harm, consumer confusion, or any intent to deceive. And that was early on in the case. Which
is actually what the statute requires in order to pursue that action. But that didn't stop the Attorney General.
No, sir, it did not.
Okay. And I also understand you went some digging around with some more public disclosure that at one point, Even though they had no claim of action against them, Value Village actually offered the state a settlement. That is, they would write him a check to get Attorney General Ferguson's office to go away. How much did they actually offer to pay him on a frivolous claim?
They offered to pay him $475,000, but that offer was rejected by the Attorney General's office.
Okay, so I want the viewer to understand this. Value Village is subject to a frivolous lawsuit by the Attorney General's office. They figure, hey, you know what? It's probably better to pay the Attorney General off than it is to litigate this thing. So they offer a payment of nearly $500,000 for a frivolous lawsuit. The Attorney General tells them to go pound sand. They go all the way to court. Then we have all of the shenanigans happen. Same old, not turning over discovery and things like that. And it costs the state, again, how much, Michael?
$4.3 million.
And I understand that during that litigation, even though the Attorney General's office had kind of admitted they didn't really have a claim for action, the Attorney General was sending out basically hate mail to potential consumers. Can you tell us about that?
Correct. He was, while they were doing all of this, they were sending out information to, or press releases to everybody saying that they were basically doing the bad things that they were accusing them of.
Okay. So while he's trying to kill their business in court, he's also trying to kill their business out of court through, nefarious mailings and things like that, which would actually have misrepresented the status of the case. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. In fact, they even says was, quote, deceiving its customers was the wording that they used.
Okay. Now, just so the viewer understands that I know we've made a lot of, bold and salacious allegations here, but everything that we're stating, we're going to give the receipts to the viewer, right? Because down below in the description box, why don't you tell everyone what they're going to be able to find down there? Because you brought the receipts for all of this.
Yes, sir. I'll be posting up all of the, giving you the links for the court documents, as well as the article from the Olympian, as well as all of the, there's even a spreadsheet that I created that will automatically show you the grand total of absolutely everything.
Okay. So going full circle, back to our myth. The myth is that Attorney General Ferguson runs a very efficient and highly ethical Attorney General's office. And you believe the evidence shows us what?
It's completely false.
Okay. And would you have any faith in this individual who runs the AG's office in this fashion to run our state in any fashion that would be any different?
Absolutely not. If he can't get the Attorney General's office in line to fix this massive problem, he has no business jumping up and trying to run a bigger operation. I know I wouldn't hire him in my enterprise.
Michael, why don't you tell the viewer one more time how they can follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter. My name on Twitter is Michael Easton, Easton, W-A.
All right. Listen, he's Michael Easton. I geek out on him on Twitter. You should be also. He always brings the receipts. This is the first in a series of videos. We've already started brainstorming next Friday's series as well. Michael, as always, thanks a million. Thanks for everything you do, and please stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
$16.2 million in 12 years as the Attorney General. Let that sink in. Listen, you may have more questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our state of Washington, which isn't much right now. As mentioned earlier, all the receipts for everything we talked about, it's all down there in the description box. Our contact information is down there in the description box in case you want to get a hold of us. Maybe you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here. If you do, go ahead and click on that link right there. Maybe you just want to be part of our monthly newsletter. The ability to do that is all down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.